It's been 3 weeks. I am not dead. I am not injured. I'm alive. I'm here. I'm here to do some more reviews. I know you've been missing me. I know you have, but I'm back. Now, anyone who is anyone will know that the Oscars happened. Now, with that in mind, what we're going to do is look to drop a few reviews over the course of the next 7 days or so, just reviewing a few of the Oscar-nominated movies. They're not going to be all the Oscar-nominated movies, but just a few that we managed to watch either before or after, and we're going to let you know what we think. So today we're going to start off with Into the Spiderverse. That's right. So Into the Spiderverse is something that I've been wanting to watch ever since it came out at the cinema. I just haven't had the time to get around to watching it. Fortunately, I managed to watch it the other day, and it lived up to every expectation I had of it. I've been speaking to people for the last couple of weeks, months, saying, what's it like? Would you recommend it? Everyone's been unanimously saying, it's great, you need to watch this, it's crazy. And they weren't lying. They weren't lying at all. So for those that you don't know, Into the Spider-Verse follows a different Spider-Man. Most people will be accustomed to Peter Parker being the main Spider-Man. Everyone kind of knows who Peter Parker is. It's almost kind of like a household name. This film has Peter Parker in it, but he's not the main character. This main character is Miles Morales, who is a different version of Spider-Man. He is still a Spider-Man, has his own comic book arc. He is just a different version of the Spider-Man. Now, the different versions of Spider-Man is explored a lot in this film because what they do is they tap into what's known as the multiverse. If you've not seen it by now, there will be a few spoilers darted in and around this review, simply just for clarity of the story more than anything. So you've been warned. You've been warned. This story follows Miles Morales, who throughout the film interacts with multiple different versions of Spider-Man that have been thrown into his universe from their own universes. This is known as something as the multiverse. You would have seen it in a lot of other things, a lot of other programs, a lot of other movies explore versions of their own multiverse. In this film, they do just that. So the story behind this film is that Wilson Fisk, who is the Kingpin, rips a hole through time and space to try and tap into the multiverse, to try and bring back a version of his deceased wife and son. Now, in doing so, what he does is he inadvertently brings through multiple different Spider-Men into the universe that we're currently occupying, who then, through their Spidey sense, meet up with Miles and become a Spider Force, if you will. Once they're grouped together, they have to understand how they get back to their own universe, as the current universe is essentially erasing them from existence because they don't belong where they are. Now, through all of this, the main heart of this film follows, as I said before, Miles Morales, who is a teenager. He is struggling with adapting to the school that he is in, that his father has put him in. He's put him into a private school of sorts because he wants the best for him. He's not really fitting in with anyone. He tries, but kind of resents his father for doing it. He finds more comfort in his uncle than he does his own father. That kind of dynamic in this film really provides, like I said, the heart of what we actually see here, because there are moments throughout the film that involve these three characters, Miles, his father and his uncle, that really do pull at your heartstrings, and it wasn't something that I was expecting to get from this film, especially certain scenes with Miles and his dad, and one particular scene with Miles and his uncle that did take me by surprise, and it does actually make you go, wow. It does actually throw you back a little bit, because from a movie that is animated the way that it is, has so much humour in the way that it does, you don't expect that kind of emotion from a film of that nature. And I was really surprised, pleasantly surprised actually, by the way that they introduced that into the film and the way that they carry it through. It's really nice to see. It provides an extra dimension to the film that I wasn't expecting, but really enjoyed. Miles eventually ends up getting bitten by a radioactive spider, and you actually see that in it. He doesn't start the movie as a Spider-Man. You see him become Spider-Man. You see him get his powers, and you see how he learns to work these powers. It's really refreshing to see this type of origin story for Miles, because it is very different to that of Peter, simply because he has mentors, he has friends, he has other spider people to help him out in how he becomes the Spider-Man. Now ultimately it's not down to these different spider people to make him be the hero that he is. It's himself. It's his own natural ability to be able to take that leap of faith. And the transition from him getting his powers and not knowing what to do to then becoming Spider-Man and fully embracing it is captured incredibly in this film. The way that they display Miles' abilities throughout this film, especially towards the end once he is fully fledged and capable, is a breath of fresh air to see. Because it's not live action, it allows you to go places with the character and their abilities that you couldn't do if it were live action, which is great to see, because Spider-Man is one of those characters that can do the impossible. And I know that CGI can pretty much make you do whatever you want to do in a film, but because of the nature of the way it is, it works so much better through animation. Speaking of animation, the animation of this film took me a moment or two, 10 minutes or so actually, to actually get used to. It's very jolty, it's very janky, but when you start to see it in action in terms of the fighting scenes, in terms of the more action-packed scenes, it surprisingly becomes really quite fluid, even though that it is still a little bit jolty. I would compare it, it's nowhere near as bad, but I would compare it to the Lego Movie, how it feels like frames are purposefully cut out because of the robotic nature of it. It's not as robotic as that, but I do feel like this adopts that kind of style in terms of animation. It's not a game changer at all. It's not a deal breaker either. You will get used to it. It just takes you a moment to adjust. If you are quick to adjust to that kind of thing, you probably won't even notice it. Like I said, it took me about 10 minutes, but again, it's not detrimental to the movie in any way. The multiple spider people in this movie are great. They are brilliant. So you've got Peter Parker, who is the original Spider-Man. We all know Peter Parker. We've got Miles Morales, as I've already said. We've got Spider-Man Noir, who is played by Nicolas Cage, who is absolutely hilarious in this film. He is almost one of the best things about this film. You've got Gwen Stacy, who plays Spider-Gwen, who looks brilliant, by the way. Her outfit looks incredible. You've got a pig Spider-Man, and you've also got kind of like an anime manga kind of Spider-Man as well, which they fulfill their roles, but I don't feel like there is enough emphasis on those two characters, which is why I'm not really going to talk about them that much. Spider-Gwen, the original Spider-Man, Peter Parker, and Spider-Man Noir are kind of the three main different Spider-Men that you see, and it follows. Peter Parker more so than anyone else, because Peter is the first one that Miles comes in contact with and becomes sort of a mentor, almost kind of like a big brother type role. And it's really quite nice to see that connection between the two characters, simply because Peter at this stage in his life is pretty much a down and out. He's been Spider-Man for many, many years. He's almost kind of done with it. Him and MJ have broken up after a long, long time together. So he's kind of past it. He's got a bit of a belly. And that connection between him and Miles kind of reinvigorates his wantingness to become Spider-Man again, and for the love of saving people, but also his ability to mentor and help Miles in becoming who he is really refreshing to see. And it's a really nice take on how Miles becomes Spider-Man and his own version of Spider-Man. Miles' suit, by the way, that he basically makes himself with spray paint is incredible. It's incredible. It looks awesome. But again, that I can only really put that down to the animation. They can pretty much do what they want with it, and they take full advantage of that. Some of the shots in this movie are great as well. The majority of it, like I said, is animated, and a lot of it is moving really quite fast, but there are some slow motion shots in this movie. One in particular where and I think it's in the promos and in the adverts and everything for it, but there's one shot in particular where Miles jumps off a building and is falling headfirst down from the New York skyline, but the shot is flipped upside down. But with the slow-mo of it and the way that it looks fantastic. So on the whole, I think Sony have really done a good job with this one. I know that in the past they've had issues keeping momentum going. I'm looking at you, Venom. I'm looking at you, Dane DeHaan. I'm looking at you. But I think in this one, they've really recaptured the spirit that is Spider-Man, and I think that if they continue with this style going forward for these kind of movies, I don't think they'll have any problems keeping the momentum going. So, would I recommend it? Would I not recommend it? Of course I'm going to recommend it. This is brilliant. If you want a film that has a great story, has heart, has bags of humour, has great visuals, and, by the way, a killer soundtrack. I've not said anything about the music, but the music in this film is crazy. It is incredible, and it's so in tune with the style of the film. It's unbelievable. It's great. I loved it. I can't really say anything bad about it, really. So that was Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse. Let us know what you thought of the film in the comments below. Make sure you like and subscribe to the video as well. We've got an Instagram and a Facebook page that we're updating on a regular basis as well, so check that out. Peace!